All right, we're getting ready to break camp here. We're going to do dispersed camping tonight, so we want to just empty all the black and gray water tanks, and then we want to fill up the freshwater tanks. So we purposefully stayed at a campground last night that has full hookups, and so now I'm going to show you on the Panoramic how we dump and then how we fill up. So the dump station on the Panoramic is located right here. You can see this is the outlet valve, black and gray water here. And then this is the actual dump where we're going to put the pipe into there, or the hose into. So get your Panoramic kind of lined up between the two because you don't have a lot of hose length there. So you want to make sure it's kind of lined up. And then the hose is located back here on the back in a little secure container. So putting that up, and always put your gloves on just in case. I mean, it's really not that messy, but carry a box of these. I have a whole box of these plastic gloves just inside the van just for this reason. So you pull the hose out. Now the hose should be clean from last time, because when we dumped last time, you always dump the black first and then the gray water, because the gray water flushes and cleans it out. So it's really not dirty at all. And then just screw this cap off down here. Now here's the challenge. It's freezing out, so there's a possibility that this is frozen shut. Luckily, it didn't freeze, but you saw the water in there, and that's from the last dump. That's gray water. So don't worry, that's not black water. Black water is from your toilet. Gray water is from your sink and shower. Anyways, if you do sustained camping in the cold, this is what I mean in my videos, where most RVs are not four season, because even though the tanks and all the lines are inside the van and they don't freeze, this can freeze. And if that freezes, you're not four season because you can't dump your tanks. So some RVs have they heat this so that it can avoid freezing. But if it's extremely cold out, it's not going to help you, even if it's heated. Make sure, all right, there's little hooks here. See this little hook here? You got to make sure that little hook is hooked in. Don't make the mistake I made before, where it wasn't hooked in, and when you pull the valve, the pressure blows this hose off, and then you got black water shooting out all over you. Don't make that mistake. Make sure it's hooked, and always do a good tug on it, and if it's on there secure, you're good to go. All right, so now in this bag here, oh, you know what I forgot to do, guys? I guess I can do it. I'll do it here. So this doesn't go on here, so I can't do that. All right, I made a mistake, so I'm going to take this off. There's this piece that comes with the Panoramic, and you put it on, and it's a clear elbow. And the reason why you want to use that is you can watch as it's dumping to make sure it's full. Your tanks are fully dumped. So we're gonna put that on. There we go. Okay, now we put the other little piece on. So this just goes like this. Just an adapter, so that when you stick it in here, it just fits nice and snug like that. Okay. So now we're ready to go. Okay. So always also make sure that your elevation of the exit from your van is higher than the actual connection into the sewer here. Otherwise, gravity won't pull it out. So we're good. It's lower. We're good. I'm going to pull let me make sure this is It's good and secure. Pull the black first. That's your toilet water. Pull it slowly and then fully open it. See, it's flowing in. I can hear it going in. This seals it completely. You don't smell a thing, okay? There's no foul smells. This adapter, you want one of these, seals it completely. You're not gonna smell anything. I can see from that elbow pipe that there's still fluid flowing out of the black tank, so I'm just gonna leave it, let gravity do its work. This sometimes takes a second because, well, it's gravity. It's not a macerator. A macerator is when there's a separate pump on the RV that will actually pump the black tank out. And it'll also macerate or grind up and chew up all the toilet paper and stuff like that, turn it into a liquid and then shoot it out. It's a little noisy. I don't like them because I've had one. And I don't like macerators because they are noisy, and for me, they're prone to break a little bit. But mainly because they're noisy. Because like right now, you definitely hear the macerator pump running. It's very loud. So okay, the black tank looks empty. So I just take this a little bit and I go like this because there's fluid still in the hose. You can hear it. There we go. So the hose is all emptied out now from the black. Black tank's empty. Push the valve shut. There we go. It's fully shut. Now we're going to pull the gray, and we do the gray because now it's going to flush out the black, all the black water that was in the line. It's just going to flush it all out, and that's usually soapy water because it's from the shower and it's also from your sink. Also, I try to make sure that the gray water tank's at least 50-60% full because you want a lot of pressure. You don't want it to trickle out. When I pull that valve, I want a rush of gray water filling up this pipe so it completely clears it out of black water. So here I go. I'm going to pull it, and there it comes out. You can see it. It's really flushing out now, filling this whole pipe up. So before we did this, I filled up the gray water. It was only around 30%. I filled it up to 70% just to get a good amount of gray water going through. So it's still flowing pretty good. You can see still a lot of it's coming out still. Once this is done, this is a mistake that we made. You need two hoses on your rig. You need your freshwater hose, which is the white hose. It's a special hose that's made for drinking water. So the material it's made out of doesn't have any contaminants and stuff like that. And then you just need kind of a regular hose you can wash stuff down with. We forgot our regular hose, so I don't want to use the drinking water hose to normally, once we're done with all this, I disconnect it and I would use the regular hose to just flush out this hose and just make sure it's all clean and then stow everything. But we don't have that hose, so hopefully this gray water flush cleaned it out pretty well, and we don't have to worry about it. But that's something we got to put on our to-do list, is buying a secondary hose and keeping it in the back of the van. So it's still running, you can see here, but you can see the water from the elbow. It's pretty clear. Again, that's just sink water mainly, soapy dishwater. And keep in mind, like our procedure is we don't really put a lot of food waste into the sink. So all the plates and stuff get wiped down. So there's not a lot of food particles in there or grease and stuff like that that's gonna coat the tank and coat the lines and stuff like that, which eventually over time is gonna start smelling. So that's just pretty clear soapy water, really. Still coming out. Take your time, just let it all drain out. And I mean, you want empty tanks. Pretty good. We're almost done. I'm just gonna let it go completely. It's almost done. I do this just to clear the hose out. Still coming out. Shake the water up and then clean out the hose since I don't have a I don't have another hose to rinse it out with, so I'm just gonna let it fill up and shake it up. There we go. That's gonna be pretty good. So we got water coming out of here. Just gonna let it drain. All right, so we're pretty good and drained. I'm gonna just push the gray valve off. That's gonna close it off. And then just any residual water, I'm just gonna lift the line here and just make sure it's all, I don't want any splashing on me, so I'm just gonna, maybe I can hear it going in there. Okay, now that's done. I'm gonna disconnect this. Okay, that's done. And then take this off, the adapter. And we're going to just put this back in its little storage case in the back of the RV here. You can see, I mean, it's clean. There's nothing in there. It's just all clean. It doesn't smell at all. Probably a good idea as well if you're in the wintertime camping, make sure this is really emptied out of water. Again, you don't want this, when I put the lid on this thing, you don't want it freezing shut on you. And then you just twist that, put that on there. Lock it. Okay. Take this one off. Put this one back on again. This one's probably going to have water in it because it's just residual. But make sure it's locked on there. You don't want it flying off while you're driving. It looks like it's locked on. And then these just go back in the little plastic bag here. Now I'll throw my gloves away and we're done dumping the tank. No smell, no mess, we're good. All right, so we're gonna fill up the freshwater tank because we're getting ready for dispersed camping. So recall that before we dumped the black and gray water tanks, I used a lot of the fresh water to fill up the gray water tanks. So we had a lot of pressure. So now we're going to fill up the fresh water. First thing we do is we're going to shut off the water pump. You don't want that on. Then we go over here, the bath. This is like an important step. So the water tank on the Panoramic is located back here. All right. And there's a valve switch right up here. You can feel it. And see when it's aligned this way, it means you're operating off the water pump and you can't fill the tanks. So what you want to do is you want to flip this thing this way. So the valve is this way. And that's going to let the fresh water that we're hooked up for the hose outside, that's going to allow the water to go into the tank. If you don't do that, if you don't switch that, the water pump could just keep running and running and running and it won't fill up the tank. So switch that there, and then your water fill. Get your hose out of the back. This is our hose. This is what I mean. This is the special water hose. It's made for drinking water. Hook it up to your spigot. on here. Now, when you get a Panoramic, it also comes with a pressure regulator. Always a good idea to put it on. This little piece at the top, this is the pressure regulator. So that the water pressure from different campgrounds vary. Some are higher, some are lower. If it's too high and you connect it directly up to your RV and turn the water on full, you can run the risk of blowing out some of your lines on the inside of the RV. And so the regulator ensures that you get constant pressure that's safe for the water lines inside the RV. No matter how high the pressure is coming from the city, this will make sure that it's not going to damage the water lines inside your RV. So this is the little here where you connect up your water. Whether it's city water or you're filling your tanks, you do it directly from here. You push this in and then you use this little spinny thing to just connect, to seal it. All right. So we're sealed and now we're good. And we're just going to turn on the water. You can hear it going in. We're going to come back here to where the freshwater tank's at. And you can kind of see, I don't know if you can see here, you can kind of see where the water level is right now. It's about 25% full. It's right there. So you can just watch as the water goes up and fills the tank. Or you can go in on the inside where your tank levels are and you can check that as well. Don't worry, you're never really going to overflow the tanks because there's at the top here, I don't know if you can see it, there's a blue line right at the very top of the tank, right there. Okay, that's your overflow line. So if you fill the water all the way up to the top of the tank, it's not going to spill out into the RV. It'll go through that line. It'll drain out the bottom of your RV. Okay, so you don't have to really worry about it. One thing you should consider though is if your RV is on a little bit of an incline, okay, then obviously the water level, the tank will be tilted. And so what will happen is some of the water might come through, it'll come through that valve and spill out the back of the RV because you're tilted and the water's water level's level, but the tank's tilted, so the water will flow out. So just be aware of that and don't freak out if that happens. It's just because your RV's not level. If that happens, and you're done filling the tank. That's all. Just shut off the water over there and you're good. So you can see we're already up to here on the water. So about 50% full already, looks like. You know, it's a good idea too. Sometimes it's a good idea to, as you get better camping, to just put in enough water that you need. Because if you leave the water in the tank, especially in the summer, you leave that water in the tank in the hot weather, like microbes and stuff like that can grow in the tank. You can drop these little chlorination tablets in, and that helps, but it's always better to kind of cycle through fresh water. So just, I guess the lesson is try not to leave the water in your freshwater tank over long periods of time. And if you do, I wouldn't use it for drinking. I would just use it for, you know, unless you boil it, I would just use it for, you know, maybe washing dishes and stuff like that. So, or showering, but even then it may not be safe. So chlorination tablets, and then just make sure that the tank constantly gets fresh water in it. So the water's we're up to here now. Just so you guys see as well, this is the filter for the pump, the water pump in the RVs back here. So that's the filter. So if you ever have a problem with the water pump, like there's not good pressure or you're not getting water coming out, this is clear. They should always be clear. I've had some RVs where this isn't clear. I've had some RVs where you couldn't easily see this, and so it's very difficult to get to. So I appreciate that on the Panoramic, this filter on the water pump's clear, and I can see it very easily just opening this door. So if there ever is a problem, I can tell right away if it's the filter. Filling up pretty good. We're at 75–80%. Sometimes it's a little bit easier when this is a two-person operation, because one person can be sitting here monitoring the tank, the other person can be around the corner where the valve is. And when you get close to 100%, the person monitoring the tank can just shout out and say, hey, we're at 90%, 95, 100%, shut off the water. But if you're doing it by yourself, you can just kind of visually see it, or just wait for the water to come out the bottom and then run over there and shut it off. I connect. All right, so we're filled up. Now we just go shut our water off here and disconnect our line and go on our way. We're done. That's it. That's easy. Oh, and make sure we turn the valve. So when we're done filling up, make sure you turn this valve back. Okay, right now it's this way. Make sure you turn it back this way so you can use the water pump and everything works normally. So disconnect, come back here, turn that way so you can use your water pump again. All right, okay, we're good.